So you did everything you were supposed to do. You got the grades, you went to college, landed the job. Now you're probably at your job thinking like, yo, ain't no way this is it. Not gonna lie, it's kind of been the same scenario I've been in for like the last couple months. And well, you know, I kind of figured if I'm going through something like this, then I'm sure a lot of other people going through something like this. And lo and behold, my TikTok algorithm must have been listening to me like everything else was. And I got like 80,000 TikTok videos talking about how pretty much all the people who followed the rules kind of feel like they got the short end of the stick, because now they feel like they're, you know, they did everything they were supposed to do, and like they don't feel like they're getting rewarded for essentially following the rules, right? And I'm in a similar situation. So for those who don't like necessarily know who I am, my name's CJ. I'm 24 years old. Graduated college in the year 2022, and then pretty much got my big boy corporal job right out of college. Now I usually don't make content like this. I do talk about like things on a realer note, but usually my videos are focused around like, you know, entertaining stuff and like cut calm. So not too far off of what I do, but just kind of being a little real with the subject scenario, which I feel like anyone who's like growing in the audience should like try their best to be vulnerable and, you know, connect with their audience on another level and things of that nature. Because it's always easy to kind of just put the mask on and, you know, just kind of save face for like the sake of a video, right? But that's not the way I kind of want to run YouTube. You know, I want it to be a place where I can kind of also talk about like not necessarily issues, but, you know, things to kind of get over those issues or things that kind of help you through those issues. You know, I want my channel to kind of be a place to not only escape the issues, but, you know, be comforted about like some of the issues that you might be going through, or maybe even find comfort in some of the struggles that I'm going through. You know, you might have something that you can relate to or some advice that you can get from me that might help you out, right? So pretty much the same way, I've been working at my corporal job for about 3 years now. Pretty much my entire life through school, everything was essentially laid out for me, from, you know, elementary school to college. Even like recently in my corporal job, I had like they have like a structure for people who get hired like right out of college, and you go through like a little program, and then you're in the program for a couple years, and then you essentially graduate and become like a regular employee, right? And, you know, for pretty much majority of all of our lives, especially like the Gen Z scenario, we're pretty much fed the same sort of spiel from everyone who's like an older figure in your life. You know, you do all this stuff, you do X, Y, and Z, and you'll be happy at the end of the day, right? For me, like the societal norm is like, yeah, you go to college, you get the big boy job, and then after that you get married, you have kids, get a house, and then hey, you got it. You know, you're living the dream, right? But for someone like me, you know, I don't necessarily want to get married or get a house or have children, and I already graduated and I have the job. So it's like, now what, right? And I know a couple other people who have gone through a similar scenario where they feel like, you know, this is kind of the end of the road for them, which is essentially, and honestly, it's crazy, right? Because, you know, I'm only 24. You know, most of us are in our early 20s, maybe even late teens or early 30s, right? But, you know, you get this sense that like if you haven't done these things by like your mid 20s or your early 30s, and like your life is essentially over, right? Or you're falling behind in some scenario, or maybe you're just like stuck in a loop of, I don't know what to do now because I did everything I was supposed to do, right? Which I felt like that way for a while, and I kind of got pulled out of that pretty fast, because I do have goals of my own that I wanted to kind of pursue outside of like my corporal 9-to-5 and climbing the corporal ladder and things like that, because that type of stuff doesn't really interest me, right? I kind of, you know, I gunned for this position to set myself up nicely to be in a position where I can follow my passions and follow my dreams essentially without necessarily having to worry about how I'm going to eat the next day or where am I going to go to sleep at and stuff like that, right? And so then you get the job and you realize that like the job, and this is kind of where I'm at, right? Like I got the big boy job, and, you know, I realized the job isn't everything. You know, I get off of work, and then like, you know, a lot of people are either burnt out from a long day of work, or they don't know what to do with their time after they get off of work. And then you kind of get into that routine of just like getting off work, getting home, vegging out on the couch or in the bed, and then either doom scrolling your phone or pulling up Netflix or something, right? And I was in that funk for a while, like when I first got my job, because I didn't really like, I had an idea of what I wanted to do like after that time, but I was still kind of wandering, right? I feel like a lot of that comes from not necessarily having the next steps laid out for your life, especially once you get the like corpo job or like the big boy job, right? You know, you go to school, you pretty much always see the next step when you're in like that school system, right? You're in high school, the next step is college, you know. You're in college, the next step is really at this point internship, but like the next step is job, right? Right, it's always sort of laid out for you from pretty much sun up, sundown, wake up, go to sleep. You know, you might have like free time on the weekend to do whatever you want to do as a kid or whatever, but you know, most of the time your majority of your life before you're like 18 is pretty much planned out for you. And then from like 18 probably even to like 22, 24, it's still relatively planned out for you, or you can like at least coast because, you know, college kind of provides at least a buffer for you to figure out what you want to do, but that's not always the case. And something that I kind of see for a lot of people in like my area, they tend to get really wrapped up into like what their job is and like making their job sort of like define who they are. And a lot of cases will just end up burning people out because maybe they don't get the promotion, or maybe they don't even like the job that they're doing, but that's like all they have. So their entire like existence is wrapped up in this thing that doesn't even really belong to them. You know, they're kind of just being a part of it. And I see a lot of people get burnt out. They feel super unhappy, super depressed, and they don't really know what to do. And I think something that a lot of people don't understand or don't really see, especially when they're like, again, in their early 20s, mid 20s, even probably late 20s, is like they're still in a very experimental time of life. And I know, again, I'm only 24, but this is something I'm currently going through and currently experiencing, where it's like, hey, you know, yeah, you kind of hit the end of the line of the demo of life, you know, the free trial, the tutorial where everything's kind of laid out and put in front of you. But now it's kind of up to you to decide what like happens and what you want to do. You know, you no longer have a set path defined. You can kind of go in your own direction, which has a lot of people lost. And with them being lost, sometimes that leads to like people just not doing anything, which I feel like is probably one of the biggest mistakes you can make, especially like in your 20s. Because again, this is usually a time where you aren't married, you usually don't have kids, usually don't have the house, so you don't have too many things weighing you down. So you have the time and the ability to like try different stuff out, or, you know, maybe rediscover old hobbies or whatever, or maybe start a potential business venture or something, right? And this is something for me that like I'm experiencing right now, right? Ever since I was younger, and you can see on my YouTube channel, I've been doing this since I was 16 years old. I've always wanted to be like a YouTuber. I've always wanted to be like a content creator. This is something I've been wanting to do since I was probably 12 or 13, right? And like, again, during those times of like high school and college, I couldn't really give YouTube everything I wanted to because I was so focused on getting the good grades and getting the job and everything like that. So I couldn't give it as much time because there was too many other, not gonna say distractions, but other priorities that I had at the time. And now that those priorities are fulfilled pretty much, now I can kind of fall back on the thing that I've always wanted to do, which was essentially grow my YouTube channel and, you know, try to make it the thing that I can switch off of my 9 to 5 from, right? And I feel like that's what a lot of people should like strive to do in their 20s, is like, you know, start hobbies, maybe rediscover old hobbies, you know, get a couple side projects going, maybe a couple creative endeavors. Maybe you liked writing or drawing when you were a kid, or maybe you liked cars or something like that. You know, there was always kind of something that you were into or enjoyed like growing up that maybe probably you don't do as much, or you wish you could get back into. And now that you have the time to do it, you should probably like look into, you know, making something of it. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to like monetize it, you know, because that's kind of another thing that I see a lot of people kind of discuss. Is like, I don't want to like monetize my hobby, which I don't think you should if you don't want to. Creative endeavors should always be creative, in my opinion. Once you start losing the sense of being creative for that, maybe because like you're following money or fame or whatever, and like, again, your prerogatives are up to you, but you know, if you lose the essence of why you're even doing it in the first place, that usually becomes an issue for a lot of people. But yeah, man, this is like the time to kind of define who you want to be and what you want your life to be like, or at least set the seeds, set the foundation to get to that point. So maybe when you're in your mid 20s or your late 20s, early 30s, 40s, by those times you're kind of reaping the rewards of the seeds that you sown when you were in your 20s doing these things, because you never know, right? You never know what these things you're chasing could give that fulfill you. You can make new friends, you could run into new opportunities, your life could expand in ways that you probably didn't even realize, because you were so wrapped up in like trying your best to maybe appease your boss, or like you were so focused on work that you didn't really give time for anything else, even though you don't want to be at that job, right? And again, I'm sure a lot of people do feel like this and they feel lost. And I'm not necessarily trying to be like the messiah to lead you to like a place where you can be found. But again, I do kind of want to share my experiences and like the things that I'm into, the things that kind of help me along and kind of get out of these problems and out of these like mental traps that can really have an effect and spiral into you essentially losing who you are as a person before you even found yourself as a person. And again, even though this is like really a confusing time in everyone's lives, I think it's also probably one of the greatest times like to be alive, because nothing is really defined for you yet. Even if you are in like the big boy job, the big girl job, you have the career path set, it isn't necessarily set in stone like this is what you're going to be doing for the next until you're in the grave, right? You have a lot of opportunity to kind of define what your life will look like for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But it does come with you taking the time to not only explore yourself, but maybe explore the world, explore relationships, things of that nature. Because again, like I said earlier, you just never know what's like waiting for you around the corner. Your new best friend, your new significant other, your new job, your new passion, like you just don't know. But if you don't do anything outside of just like maybe go to work and that's it, you're wasting the potential that you have to have these things sort of bless you in a way. You're not giving it the opportunity to show itself to you, because a lot of these times you don't even have to go out and like hunt for it or like dig for it. A lot of times it will just kind of show up. It's usually when you don't expect it, or when you kind of don't want anything to show up, but it usually shows up without you having to do anything. But because you are like doing something, those opportunities have the ability to manifest and be bestowed upon you, because you're out and about doing something versus just being home doing nothing. But yeah, like I said, guys, this is kind of something I've been seeing these videos go around a lot lately. And I kind of wanted to throw my hat into the ring and see what was happening. I would like to do these a little bit more, like I said, I'm usually like a super funny, super animated, like hyper person. Not saying that like this isn't who I am, because I do I have conversations like these with my friends all the time, because again, a lot of my friends are in these times of our lives where things are kind of just happening, and it's just weird. Life is a weird set of experiences that we don't go through alone, even though a lot of the stuff that we go through we feel like we're alone in. And I kind of want to be a voice or an outlet to kind of extend an olive branch and be like, hey, you're the only person going through this. And again, hopefully if I could say something or give some advice, or even just talk about the experience to help you maybe feel a little seen, a little heard, or whatever, that's kind of like the relationship I want to foster with like the community that I'm trying to build here on YouTube. Again, even though like I'm trying to be entertaining in a lot of my other videos and things like that, I do also really appreciate like being real and being authentic and being vulnerable too, because that's kind of something you don't usually tend to see, especially with like bigger influencers and bigger like YouTubers. I'm not gonna say a facade, but there's usually a face to keep up, or there's an image to keep up, and I want my image to be as close to me in real life as I am. And I'm not always super hype, I'm not always super funny, I'm not always super outgoing. Sometimes I am the person that just sits on the couch with you and listens to you yap for an hour or 3 hours, whatever, or I like can help you through some issues, because that's what I like to do in real life too, you know. So yeah, again, just wanted to jump on here and talk about a few things. If you guys have anything that you want to talk about or want to hear me talk about, be sure to leave them down below. I would like to do these videos more, but kind of just wanted to throw my hat into the ring and see what's going on. And yeah, again, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to do all the YouTube stuff, and I'll catch you on the next one.